Namaskaromi, and welcome to the third episode in our explorations through the traditions of yoga. Now, last week we had learned where modern yoga came from. Now, this week we're going to learn how modern yoga has transformed into a tradition over the past 100 years or so. It happened through the formation of different lineages of modern yoga, what's called parampara in Sanskrit. And so here's the question that we're going to try to answer this week. What are the key lineages, the key paramparas of modern postural yoga? Now, the reason that lineage is so important for understanding the growth of modern yoga is because in South Asia, it's through lineages that any kind of traditional authoritative knowledge is preserved and spread. In other words, if you want to learn anything, any subject that's considered to be traditional, you go to an expert teacher of that tradition, a bearer of that tradition, known as a guru. If the guru accepts you as their disciple, as a shishya in Sanskrit, then that's the only way you can gain that knowledge. It's not like you can go and take a class or pass an exam or something like that. Instead, knowledge is installed within you by the guru through a long and almost devotional process of intensive embodied learning. It's a bit like learning East Asian traditional martial arts, maybe. Think like the Karate Kid, for example. In India, if you wanted to learn how to sing classical Hindustani music, play an instrument like the sitar or tabla, or dance or paint or any other kinds of traditional arts, that's how you have to do it. You go and find a guru, hope that they accept you as a disciple in their school. You pay them honor and respect. You bow at their feet. You devote yourself to going through the regimen that they put you through. In return, the guru devotes themselves to passing on their knowledge to you exactly in the way that they had learned it from their own guru. This kind of chain process is the same for traditional religious education as well. If you want to learn how to chant Vedic mantras, if you want to learn philosophical truths, learn to do Hindu rituals, sing devotional songs, any other aspect of Hindu religious culture, you also have to go and find a guru to accept you as a disciple, initiate you into their traditional school, and then deliver that knowledge to you in a personal and kind of holistic way. These chains of gurus and disciples, this guru shishya parampara, this is how knowledge becomes traditional in the South Asian context. It's preserved, it's passed down through lineage. It's been that way since at least 1000 BC, believe it or not. So it's no surprise then that the same kind of thing happened with modern yoga. After the 1890s, when Swami Vivekananda and a bunch of others had come up with ideas about modern yoga, there were a number of important lineages and schools that of modern yoga that started popping up all across the country. In the western state of Maharashtra, you had the Yoga Institute of Sri Yogendra in the Santa Cruz in Mumbai in 1918. Closely related was the Kaivalya Dham Ashram in Lonavala, founded by Swami Kuvalayananda in 1924. These schools were largely medical, scientific in their approach, you could call it. They were more interested in bringing yoga into alignment with modern ideas of physical fitness, medicine, and wellness. In Calcutta, in eastern India, a similar kind of school called the College of Physical Education was founded in 1923 by a bodybuilder named Vishnu Charan Ghosh. This fellow is the younger brother of the famous yogi who went to the US, the Paramahansa Yogananda, right? If you remember, he's the one who kind of inspired the hippies in the US and the UK and so on, the Beatles and all that. Ghosh's methods both impacted his older brother's tradition of yogoda postures and also impacted another guru who started an ashram in 1936 in Hrishikesh in the Himalayan foothills, who was named Shivananda Saraswati. The founder of Bikram Yoga, actually, Bikram Chaudhary also claims to have learnt from Vishnu Charan Ghosh, although that's been kind of disputed whether it's true or not. Anyway, all of these different lineages have very important and interesting stories to tell, and actually there's many, many other lineages that you can find popping up around that same time, including ones that are non-Hindu, actually, part of Jain tradition, Muslim tradition, Sikh traditions, not just Hindu traditions. Maybe if you're interested, actually, you could write a paper on one of these other lineages. And the rest of the session, though, what I wanted to do is to turn our attention to perhaps the most widely recognized yoga lineage of them all, the one that was founded in the 1930s in Mysore, in South India, by a guru named Tirumalai Krishnamacharya, who's popularly known as the father of modern yoga. Right, Krishnamacharya's teaching centrally focused on modernizing the older traditions of what's known as Hatha Yoga. You remember, that's a set of kind of brute force postural practices that were earlier practiced by medieval renunciant yogis for like 1,000 years. Krishnamacharya is generally given credit for making those Hatha Yoga practices widely accessible and palatable, really, for modern middle-class urban householders who are looking for physical fitness and spiritual well-being in India, but also worldwide. Krishnamacharya was born to a distinguished priestly Vaishnava Brahmin family in a small village in the state of Karnataka in South India. He learned priestly culture, Sanskrit language, the Vedas, other branches of traditional learning from his father, and including also yoga. He's said also to have traveled to Tibet, spent 7 years learning yoga from a mystic guru at the legendary Man Sarovar Lake. We're not sure if this is a true story or if it's legend, but the guru's name was Ram Mohan Brahmachari, and he urged him, once he was done, to go back to India and propagate this yoga in South Asia. This is what Krishnamacharya did. He went back to Mysore in 1925, got married, started to teach yoga in the 1930s at the palace of the Maharaja of Mysore. That was still a semi-independent princely state under British rule at the time. Krishnamacharya taught yoga at Mysore for more than 60 years. He trained many different students from all over the world. The core themes of his method involved physical postures, called asanas in Sanskrit, which he arranged into specific sequences, kramas, for his disciples to work through. The Sanskrit word for these sequences is vinyasa krama, literally sequences of steps. In his approach, the idea is that each student would get particular sequences of postures to kind of move through, individualized in a certain way based on their skills and abilities and levels of challenge. He would arrange the different postures almost like a music composer, in a way, might arrange different parts of a song to create different kinds of physical effects for the practitioner. So if you've ever taken a class where you're led through back and forth sequences of postures, it's a good chance it has its origin in the Krishnamacharya lineage, either based directly on his teachings, or maybe more likely actually one of his disciples like Iyengar, Desikachar, or Pattabhi Joyce. Krishnamacharya's method also is characterized by special attention to regulation or control of breathing, which is called pranayama in Sanskrit. Singleton and Fraser describe these on page 88. If you're interested in learning more, check out the article. There's many other details about Krishnamacharya's teachings and his biography that you can also access in the Singleton and Fraser's really excellent article, which includes also how he incorporated bandhas, different ways to kind of physically lock the muscles of the body, how he encouraged his students to engage in discussions of classical yoga philosophy, the chanting of mantras, and other kind of spiritualized activities within a studio session. Again, if you're wondering why these kinds of things, why you're asked to chant mantras or think about the inner self, sing devotional bhakti songs in your yoga class in Vancouver, that's probably owes its presence there to teachers who've been influenced or trained within the branches of that lineage that comes from Krishnamacharya. So with that picture of Krishnamacharya and his lineage in mind, let's pause here for a moment, take a break. When we come back, we'll dig more deeply into how those different branches developed off of Krishnamacharya's original school, such that he became regarded as the father of modern postural yoga. So see you in a minute. Dhanyawad.